Welcome to Fun Facts Daily, your source for just the good stuff. Monday through Friday, we're bringing fun facts and news you can use, all carefully curated to uplift and inform. So give yourself a break, relax, and learn something awesome in just a few minutes every day. Hi everyone, I'm Kyle Wood, and today we're going to be learning about one of the most resilient, fascinating, and strangest creatures on our planet, tardigrades. But before we get into the facts, let's warm up our brains with a little challenge to see if you can tell fact from fiction. Consider this. Some say these tiny microscopic animals are so tough they can actually survive the vacuum of outer space. We're talking about being exposed to the void with no air, intense radiation, and freezing temperatures, and still surviving. What do you think? Is this an actual fact or pure science fiction? We'll find out at the end of the episode. Now for your word of the day. Today's word is cryptobiosis. That's CRYPTOBIOSIS. Cryptobiosis comes from the ancient Greek kryptos, which means hidden, and bios, which means life. So cryptobiosis translates to hidden life. It's a biological state that some organisms can enter when their environment becomes extremely hostile. It's not just sleeping or hibernating. It's like pressing the pause button on life itself. All metabolic processes like breathing, eating, and moving slow down or come to an almost complete stop, allowing the creature to survive conditions that would otherwise be instantly fatal, like total dehydration or freezing. Tardigrades are the champs of cryptobiosis. When the environment they live in, like a patch of moss, dries up, the tardigrade goes into a state called a ton. That's TUN, not TON. It retracts its 8 legs, curls up into a tiny ball, and expels almost all the water from its body, sometimes down to just 1% of the normal water content. In this state, its metabolism can drop to less than 0.01% of its normal rate. They can stay like this, completely lifeless to our eyes, for decades, just waiting for a single drop of water to bring them back to their active state, completely unharmed. Time for your daily high five, our top 5 fun facts about tardigrades. Number 1. Tardigrades are also known as water bears or moss piglets because of their adorable chubby appearance. The name tardigrade, which means slow stepper, was given to them by an Italian biologist, but their nicknames are much more popular. Johann Goes, the German pastor who first discovered them in 1773, called them Kleiner Wasserbär, which means little water bear. He gave them this name because their slow, clumsy, lumbering walk reminded him of a tiny bear ambling through the forest. They are also affectionately called moss piglets because they are most commonly found living in clumps of damp moss and, well, they look like microscopic 8-legged pigs. These creatures are tiny. Most are less than half a millimeter long. Under a microscope, you can see their segmented, chubby bodies, 8 stubby legs with tiny claws, and a little tube-like mouth they use to slurp up nutrients from algae and bacteria. Number 2. These micro-animals can survive temperatures that would be boiling hot or freezing cold. Some say tardigrades are extremophiles, and with good reason. They've been shown to survive being cooled to negative 458 degrees Fahrenheit. That's negative 272 degrees Celsius. And that's just 1 degree above absolute zero, the coldest temperature theoretically possible in the universe. On the other end of the spectrum, they can withstand temperatures as high as 300 degrees Fahrenheit, 150 degrees Celsius, which is well above the boiling point of water. So, how do they do this? It's all thanks to that ton state. When they dry out, they produce special proteins in their bodies that are unique to them. These proteins, along with natural sugars, form a sort of biological glass, a process called vitrification. This glassy substance fills their cells, protecting their DNA and other vital structures from being shredded by ice crystals or collapsing from heat and dryness, keeping their essential machinery perfectly intact. Number 3. Tardigrades can withstand pressures that would instantly crush almost any other living thing. You heard about the extreme temperatures, but now let's focus on pressure. Most life forms are adapted to the atmospheric pressure we feel at sea level, but tardigrades can handle pressure that is 6,000 times greater than this. To put that in perspective, they could survive being at the bottom of the Mariana Trench, the deepest part of the ocean, 6 times over. A pressure that extreme would crush a human or even a submarine instantly, but a tardigrade barely notices. Their toughness also extends to radiation. Tardigrades can withstand doses of X-rays and gamma rays that are 500 to 1,000 times higher than the lethal dose for a human. They have a unique protein nicknamed Dsup, which stands for damage suppressor, that physically wraps around their DNA like a shield. This protein protects their genetic code from being shattered by radiation, allowing them to survive and even reproduce afterward. Number 4. You can find tardigrades just about anywhere, including your own backyard. You don't need to travel to the deep sea or glaciers of Antarctica to find a tardigrade, although they do live in those places. They are one of the most widespread animals on Earth and have been found on every continent. You almost certainly have some living in your own backyard, neighborhood, or even the roof of your building. Their favorite habitats are damp places like moss, lichen, or the leafy clutter on the forest floor. A single handful of moss from your yard could contain hundreds of these tiny creatures. In fact, finding them is a popular and easy experiment for people with a basic microscope. All you need to do is collect a small clump of dry moss, soak it in a dish of rainwater or distilled water for a few hours, and then examine the water. With a little patience, you'll probably see some tiny water bears paddling around. And our fifth and final fun fact for today, tardigrades have crash landed on the moon. In April of 2019, an Israeli spacecraft named Beresheet attempted to make a soft landing on the moon. Unfortunately, the landing failed, and the spacecraft crashed onto the lunar surface. On board that lander was a lunar library, a special disk containing a massive archive of human knowledge, samples of human DNA, and, you guessed it, a colony of thousands of tardigrades that were dehydrated into their ton state. So, are there tiny water bears living on the moon right now? Well, they aren't active and walking around because they need liquid water to come out of that ton state. But scientists are almost certain that thousands of them survived the impact of the crash. Since they're in their dehydrated state, they're perfectly protected from the moon's vacuum and extreme temperatures. It's highly likely they're just sitting there dormant, waiting for a future astronaut to come by and add water. Now for some news you can use. While we may not be able to survive the vacuum of space, we can all learn from the tardigrade's incredible toughness by building our own resilience. A great place to start is with our physical resilience. You can do this by creating a simple daily stretching routine. Just 5 or 10 minutes of stretching each morning can increase blood flow, improve your flexibility, and release muscle tension. Think of it as a way of preparing your body for the pressures of the day, making you less prone to injury and helping you feel more energized and ready for anything. Next, let's work on mental resilience. Just like a muscle, your brain gets stronger when you give it a workout. A fantastic way to do this is to learn something new every single day. It doesn't have to be a huge task. It could be learning a new word like cryptobiosis, listening to a totally adequate podcast that gives you 5 fun facts every single day, or taking time to read an article about a new topic. This habit keeps your mind sharp, flexible, and open to new ideas, which is key to adapting to change and solving problems. And finally, we can build some emotional resilience by reframing how we see challenges. When you face a setback, it's natural to feel frustrated or disappointment. The resilient approach, though, is to acknowledge these feelings without letting them take over. Try to pause and identify the emotion, then see if you can reframe the situation. Instead of thinking, this is a disaster, try asking, what can I learn from this? Or what's one small step I can take right now to make things better? This shift in perspective helps you move from feeling stuck to feeling empowered, making you stronger for the next challenge that comes your way. Now for the moment you've been waiting for. At the beginning of the episode, I asked if tardigrades can actually survive the vacuum of outer space. Well, you guessed it, that's a fact. In 2007, a European Space Agency mission called Photon M3 carried a small container of tardigrades into low Earth orbit. They were placed on a platform on the outside of the satellite, completely exposed to the vacuum of space and deadly levels of unfiltered solar radiation for 10 full days. When they were brought back to Earth and rehydrated, scientists were stunned. Not only did many of them survive, but some of the females even laid eggs, which hatched into healthy baby tardigrades. They're the first and only animal we know of that can survive the vacuum and radiation of space completely unprotected. Now, I hope you enjoyed learning a bit about tardigrades with me today. Be sure to tune in every weekday for even more fun facts. Fun Facts Daily is an Airwave Media podcast. It was written, recorded, mixed, and edited by me, Kyle Wood. Thanks for sharing a part of your day with me. Be sure to follow Fun Facts Daily on your favorite podcast app so you can keep the good stuff coming your way every day. And if you like the show, please do me a favor and leave a kind rating, review, or just tell your friends about it.